Welcome to Fluxedo Junction. I'm Scott Kuchler. Each episode we bring you the best music of all genres from throughout the world, and this week we'll be speaking with singer and drummer John Cowsill. While he's perhaps best known for his work as a singer and drummer with his siblings band the Cowsills, his career is far more varied than that. He spent years as a drummer and vocalist for the Beach Boys touring band, featuring original Beach Boy Mike Love and longtime member Bruce Johnston. He's also performed and recorded with Jan and Dean, Tommy Two-Tone, and Dwight Twilley. Most recently, he's been touring as a vocalist with power pop legends The Smithereens, and he's been releasing new studio recordings with his wife Vicki Peterson of the Bangles. So let's start there. Here's the latest single from Vicki Peterson and John Cowsill. It's called Is Anybody Here? Here on Fluxedo Junction. I think, well, first of all, I'm really excited about the new singles that you and your wife have been releasing. There's 3 of them now. Is Anybody Here, 1,000 Times, and Come to Me. And at the same time, you're on the road singing with the Smithereens. Which I'm sort of friendly with those guys. I worked for their record company back in the 90s and recently interviewed Jim Babjack and Dennis. I was good friends with Pat Denizio, actually. What are the challenges, before we dive into your new singles, what are the challenges of kind of filling that role with a pre-existing band who, let's face it, they have some iconic hits that a lot of people are going to be used to a certain way?
You're right about that. So, I mean, but they have Marshall Crenshaw.
And Robin Wilson, yeah.
Yeah. So Marshall is Marshall with them. Robin is Robin with them. And I'm John with them. Now, the thing I do, and I don't know if the other guys are as anal as I am about this, but I mean, they seem pretty close. But I studied patch phrasing because to me, being a drummer, it's so recognizable, the feeling of his phrasing. And when people are there and they're singing along, they'll notice that they can sing along like they're singing along with the record. And I don't try to make it my own because it's not my own, but I'm not trying to be Pat either. But I know the song. So it's like when I play drums with the Beach Boys, I played all the fills that Sal Blaine played. I play the fills that Dennis played because they're so signature to my brain. Well, Pat's phrasing is signature to my brain. Now, I'll never sound like Pat because Pat has his own unique voice and his thing, you know. So, I'm not trying to fill Pat's shoes. I'm just trying to be a great interpreter of his great songs and Jim's songs and just be a team player for the band, you know. And we're having a blast up there. I've known these guys since 90, and Dennis and I are very close, and he's come out on the Beach Boys shows and played drums. So
I've always thought that Dennis is an incredible drummer. I mean, they're all great. I mean, Jim's an excellent guitar player, but Dennis in particular, even before I met the band, I was a fan of his drumming.
Yeah, sure. Me too.
Yeah.
So I'm on stage with him, and I'm hovering over him, egging him on, because when you're playing in front of another drummer, it's a whole different game, you know. And I love being on stage with him, and you were just smiling at each other. And he's such a great singer, and he sings the harmonies. So like when I'm singing, I turn around and I move out of the way. I want people to see this guy singing too, you know. So it's just fun. I think I've done 7 or 8 shows with him, but I have like 14 more on the books with him, and we're just having a good time. And along that line, my wife Vicki Peterson and
of course, yeah.
We have this duo, and they've let us open for them on some things. And then at the end of the show, it's all the gloves come off, and we're all on stage together, you know. And that's been so much fun, you know, singing some Beatles songs and stuff. And
yeah, I saw some videos. I've yet to see the band live with you, but I did check out some videos on YouTube, and one of them was all of you together doing "No Matter What" by Badfinger, and it was fantastic. You all looked like you were having a blast. And honestly, it's so much fun for me to hear you performing with them because, first of all, I am aware of the history. I mean, your sister actually sang on the Smithereens album back in the 90s, right? I think she was on.
the Cowsill sang on the Smithereens.
All of you did. Okay, yeah. So that was on Blow Up, right? I think that was the album.
Yeah.
That is my favorite Smithereens album. It always has been, man, and nobody ever talks about that one. And of course, there's the connection with you and your wife, obviously, with the Continental Drifters, and there's like when you and I were first talking about doing this interview, I kind of mentioned that we have a few casual acquaintances in common, and it's kind of a scene that, I don't know, a lot of people don't talk about it, but I've always, since I became aware of and met some of these people in the night, like Bill Lloyd.
Bill's my friend.
I love Bill Lloyd, and I've always loved his music, and Dennis played on a lot of Bill's albums back in that period. And yeah, Robin Wilson, Marshall Crenshaw, I've always been a Crenshaw fan, and your wife's band, of course. I mean, the whole sort of, and even other people like Amy Rigby, who sort of, or circle around this whole scene. And it's kind of like Children of Nuggets, right? I mean, that's sort of a little bit of the root of some of this stuff. How do you feel about the future, as somebody who's involved in music on a couple of different levels? You're a drummer, you're a songwriter, you're a singer. How do you feel about the state of pop music as it stands now? Your brand of pop music. I don't mean like whatever is on the charts that 14-year-olds are listening to right now, but I mean like all these people that we just mentioned who are great songwriters playing with real musicians. I just kind of remember there used to be a circuit of people moving back and forth between, Nashville and New York, playing gigs, down like Mercury Lounge, that whole area, and then just going back to Nashville because that's where all the publishing companies were. It would be a lot of the same session guys playing, like John Graboff and guys like that. How do you feel about the future of that moving forward, and your compatriots? What's everybody's morale like these days?
Wow, dude! I know there was a question in there somewhere, but I'm going to go with the last one you asked.
Okay, yeah, that was the question.
Well, it's just a big family musical tree to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I know all those cats, and I was kind of stuck in a band for 22 years, which was a great gig with the Beach Boys. So I didn't get to roam around like all my other friends, And the last couple of years, I've been able to do that because Vicki and I were living in New York. So you mentioned the Mercury Lounge. We sat in with a bunch of people there, and but the future is just whatever, for me personally, whatever right in front of me, whatever I'm digging right then, musically, singing wise. I mean, this is an Americana album that Vicki and I are just putting out called Long After the Fire, and they're songs by my brother. But I'm a deep country fan. But I'm also a deep pop fan. I'm a deep metal fan. I'm a deep, if it's really great, I'm a anything fan. So the future of music, I think, will depend on the creator of the music, and if they just follow what they want to do instead of trying to be trendy about what's hot and what's not out there, because that through the 70s and 80s, like new wave, everybody was like the band right before them, I'm going to be like that too, I'm going to be a new wave band too. But I like artists that just do what they do and don't care about if it's trending or not, as long as it's really good. And that to me is popular music in my head. You can call it pop, but I call popular music what's really good, and it doesn't have to be four on the floor. It doesn't have to have electronics behind it. It's just, if it's good, I love it. And that's my future for pop music. I want to play with all my friends. I'm playing with the Smithereens. I play with my wife. Somebody calls me up, do a session. I want to play drums on that guy's stuff. I don't know. It's just it's a family tree of music, and as you get older, you're so connected to everybody. Like Bill Lloyd, I haven't played with Bill Lloyd. I mean, I've been on the stage with Bill Lloyd, but not played with him. But we're friends, and I love Bill Lloyd. Shit, he's so great. I mean, there's Mark Irwin, incredible songwriter in Nashville.
Yeah,
wrote 1,000 Times with my brother Bill, and so. It's just another connectivity. Jeffrey Hatcher, another Bill co-writing person. I talk to him all the time, And I'm not a big writer. You said that. I do write some. I write a little bit, but I'm a seeker of great songs to interpret. Who does that? Alison Krauss does that.
Yeah.
She writes, but she does other people's songs. She's a great interpreter, and she's on the prowl for material. Well, that's what I do. My wife writes, so I hope she does a solo project, and lets me be on it.
Yeah. I'm such a big fan of hers too. And I just wonder, I love asking whenever I have the privilege of speaking with somebody like yourself, I love to kind of ask, is there inspiration as a musician? Are you able to draw inspiration from non-musical influences, whether it be, a book or movies or anything like that, or even just art in general?
Wow. Someone just asked me this in a papered interview.
Really?
Yes, of course. I mean, I wake up in the morning and look out my window and I'm inspired because of my view of the, sycamore trees with the sun coming through it just perfectly. I mean, I weep at a gorgeous sunset because it reminds me of other things, and that's inspiring. Books, of course, movies, TV shows, people. Just speaking to people and what they have to say can inspire me and make me think differently about things. And I'm constantly inspired. I'm just glad every morning I wake up so far, I get inspired. So, yeah, everything inspires me. I think a lot of different things inspire all of us. You can't help but feel that way unless you're wired differently. And there are people who are wired where they're just grumpusauruses and they're not happy in the world and they're focused on that. I don't focus on that. I was born in a positive state of mind. I was born that way. Fortunately, and I'm wired where I can just love everybody, don't care, who you voted for, or what side of the fence you live on, or I just want unity, and I treat people how I want to be treated, really, and I think that's the source of my happiness and my inspirations,
As a drummer and a singer, I'm curious as to how one of those gifts affects the other for you. And I guess by that, I mean, one of my absolute favorite drummer is Ringo. And I've always felt that his drumming was very melodic in a way. When you think of the drum fills on like Day in the Life, you can hum those. You can't think of a Day in the Life without thinking of those drum fills. And of course, there are a bunch of other drummers who have that gift as well. Do you find that one of those talents sort of adds to the other in either direction?
Well, for me personally, I grew up singing and playing from the very first day. I never knew any other way. I never just was a drummer. I always sang. So it came easy to me. Because when you're a kid, you can learn anything. You can learn 5 languages in, a month, and not as an adult. So I've had people ask me, how do you do that? And my explanation to them, I said, it's no different than a fifth hand. It's like I was talking about Pat's lyric. It's a rhythm. Yeah. So when I'm singing and playing, I'm in rhythm with the drum set, when I'm singing in front of a band, I'm so in the groove with who's ever playing. It's just another limb to me. It's another, it's a foot, it's an arm, Yeah. That's how I look at singing. People, they get all worried. I can't sing. Well, the hard thing is remembering the words, but if you just go da, 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 you can play drums because you're... drummers talk to themselves while they're playing all the time. They're playing a polyrhythm in their head. Well, singing's the same thing. Ask Steve Gadd. He's got some crazy beat going on in his brain while he's playing. And he might be going, and he's playing straight time to it, like playing with a percussionist in your head. So that singing and drumming is like that for me. And then, I'm not a shredder. I'm a beat drummer, so I learned to play for vocals. That's how I was raised by my brother Bill. I was raised, don't do that. Don't do that. So I didn't learn a lot of technique. I learned when not to play. Don't do a fill there. Guys singing stuff. You know what I mean? And you always, and for choruses, like Ringo said, always go to the upper part of the cymbal near the bell. It just shines. It's like, I'm on a chorus now. It's just a funny thing. I think that way because Ringo is my hero, and Ringo is why I play drums. A lot of guys my age, Ringo was our inspiration, unless you were already a deep dive into jazz and all those kind of things, that us rock drummer guys learn later who all, Ringo's inspirations, where you learn who your hero's inspirations are, and then you go find out what they were listening to, and then you say, oh, that's why I've been playing like that, or, it's just, man, the vein goes deep.
Yeah, that continuum is a lot of fun. It's, to me, half the fun of being a musician is, that archaeology that you can do, digging back and finding out who inspired this person. I did an interview not that long ago with Liberty DeVito where we talked about some of this, and
Love
such a nice guy, such a great drummer, and I was watching his Drumeo video before we did our interview, and I was watching him. First of all, these are songs I've been hearing my whole life, and I knew he was an amazing drummer. That's why I wanted to talk to him. But until I saw that video, I don't think I realized how aggressive he is, while at the same time staying out of the way. And I mentioned that to him, and he said, well, first off, if you watch that video, he said, you can see that I'm singing along while I'm playing. He said that, and it only now is just occurring to me that vocals and drums are the original instruments, right? I mean, that's where it all started. So there is a direct connection there between the two that I never even thought of until just now. But
Absolutely.
Yeah, the melodic, and that's something that I think all of you share in common. Not every drummer, but the drummers that we've mentioned, you and Dennis and Liberty and Ringo, that musicality, I think, it's not as easy as I think people might believe to achieve that, right? I mean, for you, maybe it's second nature, though, because you've been doing it that way forever. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. I wasn't 17 and say, I'm going to be a drummer.
Yeah. Wow. Well, listen, you've already given me so much time, so I don't want to keep you hanging too much longer. I know you're a busy man, but I would love to ask because what you're releasing with your wife is coming through in the streaming services as singles, but you've already mentioned that there's a complete album, and all of this is just sort of kind of being dripped out, and I think that's such a great way of promoting this. Are you and your wife like doing this, promoting it yourself, or is there a team behind you that's working on all this?
We have a team behind us. We have PR person, social media people, the record label. We have our sales people. I mean, yeah, we're having some help. Absolutely, our producer is helping us. He's kind of guiding us through all the new music business, because Vicky and I are from the old school. We're from an analog world. This is a metadata world we're in, and we had to learn a lot to prepare to put this album out. It took us about 4 years to complete it, and a year and a half just finding the publishing on two of my brothers, who I thought it would be very easy to record songs by them because they're my brothers, but they're not here to say, yeah, you can use it.
Right.
So you got to license everything, find out who their publishing numbers. You have to find out the codes for all the songs so they can be properly put into the metadata, which is, that's how people get paid. If you don't have anything filled out, you're just putting out a song and hope somebody finds it by accident, So.
Yeah. Well, somebody explained to me, because like I mentioned earlier, I used to work at a record company years ago, and there was this whole theory that it was always kind of being talked about in the office of multiple impressions, right? And the example I always used back in those days anyway was the group Gnarls Barkley. That was just the example that, like, it was this act that I kept hearing about, and it took me 5 times to hear about them before I actually took the trouble to investigate their music for myself. First they popped up on my AOL homepage, and then, I read something in Rolling Stone, and then I heard somebody talking about it at a rehearsal studio one night. And then finally, after the 5th time, I was like, you know what? I got to listen to this. I keep hearing about it. Yeah. And that's when it clicked, like, oh, multiple impressions. That's what they mean. But I can tell you,
important.
It seems to be working for you, because I'll just close on this, and then thank you so much for your time. I was at a party about a month ago in Brooklyn, and there were a whole bunch of people at this party that I didn't know, but there was one gentleman in particular that the host made a point of introducing me to, because on Facebook, I guess you had posted when the first single went up for streaming, and I loved it right away, and I reposted it on my page, and the host saw that and said, "You've got to meet this guy. He's a huge fan of Vicky's." And then we just spent the whole night talking about you and your wife and how much we love that track. And it turns out he's been following her around and, you know, her group forever. But then there were a whole bunch of other people that ended up drifting into the conversation who had seen those posts on social media about the new single. And I was like, wow, this machine's working already. You know, I heard about this single yesterday, and there's already at least 8 people at this party who know about it, and they were people I didn't know. So for whatever that's worth, your efforts they seem to be working. And I'm sure the tour with the Smithereens, in addition to being a lot of fun, I'm sure that's helping as well. And I'm really looking forward to catching one of the shows.
I hope you do, man. It's so fun.
Well, listen, thank you so much. You've been so kind and so generous with your time, and I really am a very big fan, and I was a little bit nervous about this interview.
Man.
So you went easy on me, and I really appreciate it. And just thank you so much, and best of luck to you, man.
All right, Scott. You're awesome. Appreciate the time.
All right. Take care, sir. Thank you again.
You too, brother.